Hello, welcome back to episode 2, Live with Zokai. If you are new here, welcome. If you are not new here, welcome back, bro. Welcome back. I'm Zokai, the modern day priestess. And today we have a really good show for you. I hope that everybody enjoyed. Let me turn that down just a little bit. I hope everybody enjoyed their Lovers and Lust Day, had a great weekend. As always, get your drinks, get your snacks. Make sure you set your atmosphere. I have my incense going. I have a candle going over there somewhere. Make sure you set your atmosphere because we're going to get into a couple things, okay? So, for our first segment, just my thoughts, okay? Just some stuff that I be seeing around the spiritual social media streets, and I just want to talk about it with y'all, see what y'all think, if y'all feel the same way I do or you have something different, just a little conversation. Okay, so this one, I was actually watching this girl. She's a content creator and she tells stories. I think she calls them spooky stories or something. Most of them are really good. They're pretty good, but they're all actually like stories about witchcraft and whatever. But she calls them spooky stories. And so she was promoting her new ebook. I think that's what she was doing. And so she said that basically she didn't want to come off as if the book was like a spiritual book or an esoteric or occult like book. She wanted to position it as like remedies from her Haitian grandmother and prayers because she's a Christian. And so she was telling the story about her dad and how whatever. But so she kept saying, because he's God fearing, I'm God fearing because I'm God fearing, as opposed to the people in her stories who practice witchcraft or do spells or practice voodoo in particular because her lineage is Haitian. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, well, girl, why you keep saying God fearing as if people who practice other things outside of Christianity are not God fearing? Because if you really know anything about, especially the ATR specifically, most of them, it's about one God. You may call the creator one thing and they call the creator by another name, but it doesn't mean that they don't fear God and that God isn't the ultimate authority on the situation. Even if you're doing spiritual work, God got to give the okay for the work to even happen. So I thought that was interesting of her to keep saying that. And I'm like, girl, what does that even mean for in the context that she was using it in? I know what it meant when I was in the church, but for her, I was like, why do you keep saying this? This sounds a little crazy. You keep saying this, but then you want to turn around and be like, oh yeah, go get my Haitian grandmother's old school remedies, which we all know what that means, right? Anyway, let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. Moving right along. To spiritual healers charge for their services. Why or why not? Hey, Sierra, how you doing, boo? So this has been a debate for a very, very, very long time. And my position is absolutely. Why not? Everybody else get paid for their services. And most of other people's services aren't even life changing. So why shouldn't spiritual healers in particular get charged for our services? We have to extend a great deal of energy, resources, time just to assist you on your healing journey. And then it should just be free because what? We still have to pay money to replenish ourselves. So why wouldn't the exchange be required? Those are just my thoughts, the short version of my thoughts. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think. Hey, soft on the exhale. Hey, hey. I don't even know why this is even a thing. Like, we literally have to pay for everything. Even if you do a bartering system, it's still an energy exchange, right? So why is this a big deal? I not remember in the church there was always a debate about paying like the musicians and the other people in the church for their spiritual gifts and paying them because like nobody's able to live off of that. So I don't understand. Like what? Like this doesn't make sense to me. Hey Deanna. So Deanna said absolutely get paid for your services. Yeah, because why not? Like, I don't know. I don't know why people feel like they shouldn't have to pay for things that help them. I don't know. Okay. Moving on to the next thing I saw this week. The only work I want to do is spell work. Well, okay. That sounds cute, right? But you still live on a, and I may be taking it too deep. Y'all let me know if you like, girl, it's not that deep. But you live on a plane where you still have to do regular work, even with your spell work. You can't do spell work for a job and then don't put in no applications or don't go to networking events. How is that going to work? You can't do spell work for finding a partner and then be like, I'm not finna leave the house. Spirit finna drop the man off at your door. Maybe, but then what the hell is he just doing at your door? Is that somebody you really want to be talking to? Like, it's just so many things that just doesn't make sense about this to me and for me. But again, y'all let me know what y'all think. And I think, initially the energy of this was supposed to be like just really cutesy, like, oh, the only work I want to do is spell work. I get it for a viral moment on social media. Like, I get that. But the problem with that is stuff like this is in those groups where people are at all different levels in their walks, in their spiritual journeys. It's a lot of people that's just beginning and they might take this literal and be like, yeah, I only want to do spell work and then don't do shit else and gonna be trying to cuss out the spirits and everything else and be like, oh, this don't work. Now I'm going back to the church. Because we know they do that, right? When stuff ain't going anyway, they want to run back to the church, to the church house. That didn't work for you the first time. Why is it going to work for you this time? But anyway, I digress. Moving right along. Okay. Y'all, can y'all see? Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger so we can really see this. This says well maintained dreadlocks. Problem number one. No bleach peroxide ammonia. 39 long, 13 medium, and 7 small. $75. Dreadlocks for making extensions. Who in the hell want to put this on their head? Who is about to pay $75 to have this extended to their, I don't know what the hell is going on in Citrus Heights, California, but they need to be stopped immediately. Immediately, before we even get to the whole energy hair. Look at this. This is a damn mess. This is nasty. This is disgusting. What kind of look you going for? What kind of look are you going for? I love me some locks, but this is scary to me. Deanna said, you'll be surprised by how many people add other people's hair to theirs. No, No, I'm not surprised, right? Because I will buy me some human hair extensions in a heartbeat. But these dirty old things, them things ain't been washed ever. It looked like it's about to be growing a whole species inside of there. That's making me nervous. I can't do it. I cannot. I cannot. We cannot. So in another live, we talked about how the energy of hair, especially extensions and wigs, when it's human, how that affects you. And if you do wear, very disgusting, okay? Like I cannot deal with this. So we had talked about that already, right? So if you are going to get human hair, a wig, extensions, the human braiding hair, all of that, you want to make sure that you do your spiritual cleansing over it, because there's still energy attached to it. You don't know what those people were going through. Now you going through, because right, we get it. So that was crazy. I was like, oh my God. Child, they need they butt whoops for putting this on here talking about $75. You can, I'm not taking this for free. It's going straight to the trash. Okay. Okay, so that's our segment for that. Y'all, again, let me know your comments down below, and we are going to keep moving. So last week, when we talked about just from my perspective, we talked about let me Kara, how do I get this disgusting stuff off of here? Okay. Ugh, yuck. Yuck. We talked about Esther chapter 1, and I gave y'all my interpretation of what was going on. And so this week, we're still there. We're just going to go a little bit deeper into it, okay? So just like a quick little recap, we talked about the king. He liked to show off all his riches, his beautiful wife, all of that. He had a party for 7 days. They were feeling themselves, drinking way too much. He wanted the queen to come. She said, "Oh no, I don't have time for that." So that's the quick recap. So what I want to do is I want us to kind of step out of the Sunday school version of how we break down things. Put a 1 in the chat if you used to go to Sunday school, or if you've ever been, or even Bible class. 1 for Sunday school, 2 for Bible class, 3 for both. So I used to have to go to both, right? I even taught Sunday school for preschoolers for several years. And so the way that I would explain things to the kids was very simple, very, so that they can understand, so that they can grasp it. Okay, some of us was in Bible class, some of us did go to Sunday school. Okay. So today I want us to kind of step out of that Sunday school version and just look at this like observers of human behavior. We're going to look at their behavior, the power dynamics, and for this particular story, the ego regulation, because Esther 1 is really less about, chapter 1 is less about religion and more about what happens when you have insecure leadership and then it gets validated by equally insecure advisors. Because remember, the king had his people. He went to his people like, what are we going to do about this? Okay, so let's get into it. The king. We're going to do a case study on the king. And we're going to look at this from the perspective of performative power. So again, he spent 180 days showing off his wealth, his status, and his dominance. 180 days. This is in Esther chapter 1, verse 4, if you want to read it for yourself, which I'm going to always tell you, read the things for yourself. You study to show thyself approved. We used to say that in church, and that's what that means to me. Read it for yourself, get an understanding for yourself. All right. And so to me, when I hear you spent 180 days showing off, that's not really you governing. That's you just kind of like putting on a show. But psychologically, it also signals to me a leader who your identity is just tied to external validation. and then you're overcompensating. It's like the louder the display, the shakier your internal authority is to me. And I'm all about regulating the nervous system, right? So a nervous system that needs witnesses to feel power, that's really like status anxiety dressed up as confidence when we really think about it. That's what was going on. Like this king, he don't really feel powerful because he need everybody else to confirm that he is. And when power is performative like that, y'all, that's fragile and it's dangerous as well. Okay, so two, let's talk about the banquet environment. This was literally like just a collective display. Okay. The way I read it, it looked like a collective display to me. And the text kept emphasizing how they were drinking with no restrictions. What does that even mean? And why does it matter? It matters because alcohol lowers impulse control. That's why I was like, maybe that's part of the reason why the queen said no, because she knows what happens to women when the men have been drinking like this. You can't control your impulse. It's going to lower your emotional regulation. So you overstimulated and all over the place. It's going to lower your executive decision making and it's going to take over. So the king making a major political demand by summoning Vashti while dysregulated, that's not random, right? That's what happens when a leader makes identity decisions in an emotionally altered state. You've been drinking for 7 days, you are definitely in an altered state, right? Not thinking right. You're just doing stuff, you're just saying stuff, probably making everybody uncomfortable. When she got over there, I'm sure she would have felt hella uncomfortable. Think about it. When we out, if you go out, especially to like bars or clubs or just environments where men are drinking, I'm just talking about us girls, right? How uncomfortable are we when some drunken fool comes to us and try to talk to us? Even if they're not aggressive or, in that way making us nervous, but just the energy period is a nervous energy. And so when I think about that, you can think about, let's look at an example. Drunken text. When you send drunk text messages or when you receive drunk text messages, when people do impulsive firings at, in the workplace, just those ego driven ultimatums, all of that, but scale it to an empire. Think about it in the context of having an empire. That's what we're dealing with this king and these men and Queen Vashti. So three, we move into Vashti's refusal. So for me, this was about boundaries versus shame triggers, right? Because Vashti is like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going over there. I'm not leaving my party. And the text doesn't, for me, it didn't frame her as rebellious, but it framed the king as humiliated in front of other men. And so this is a real thing. Psychologists call it public ego threat. So research actually shows that men in those hierarchical cultures react very strongly when their authority is challenged publicly, when peers are watching. They feel like identity equals control. So this really wasn't about Vashti attending a party. What this was about was, oh, if she can say no to you, then what that say about you to us, right? Now we're in the same realm of shame, not leadership. So this is what this was about with this king, the way I saw it from my perspective. Now these advisors, the advisors represent to me groupthink and I hate to use this word right now because it's such a trigger word, but patriarchal panic. Let's think about it. Enter the men around him, right? What do? Instead of really truly assisting and giving him wise advice, they escalate the situation immediately. They like, this gonna spread to all the women. Notice the cognitive distortion with that. For them, it's like, oh, one boundary means that we have to project this into a societal collapse. What the hell? That doesn't even make sense. How the whole damn society finna collapse just because Queen Vashti said no? And who besides them, who else was even gonna know that she said no? It wasn't like, I don't believe that all the women in the land was at her party and they saw her say no to these men. They probably didn't know what was going on really. And I'm sure she went like, girl, yeah, the king just asked me to come. And I was like, nah, I ain't going to his lame ass party. I got my own. She didn't do that. I don't think she did. What y'all think? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all think everybody in the society was gonna know that she said no to this man? But this is used to justify control. And we need to recognize when control is being shown and displayed in those sneaky kind of ways, right? They weren't protecting marriage, not at all. They was protecting a power structure that's dependent on unquestioned compliance. Does that sound familiar? Now, psychologically, this is a fear of losing the hierarchy. And so then they have anxiety about shifting gender power, which shouldn't be a struggle or issue to begin with, right? Now it's the issue of regulatory behavior disguised as moral order, right? They like, oh no, these women, they cannot be telling the men no because now everybody gonna tell their husbands no. That's morally wrong. Says who? Another man? I'm also not a proponent of people just, creating chaos in your marriage. I'm not saying that, but come on, let's be for real. What they did was manufacture a law to soothe the male insecurity. That's what they did. And before people get started, the men that be coming over here, even though this ain't really for you, and getting all in the comments, this is not about men versus women. This is literally my perspective on what happened in this book. That's it. So don't come over here with all of that because I will get with your ass. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about why we have to make this a law. Why? Because insecure systems need rules where secure ones really need character. Think about that. If we're insecure, then we need these rules that's going to keep the people in check. So we're not feeling ashamed. We're not being made to feel less than the men that we are. This decree, it really forces respect instead of cultivating it. You should cultivate people respecting you because you are the king, right? But not forcing. Nobody wants to be forced to do anything. When you have a toddler, toddlers don't like being forced. How do they react? They throw a damn tantrum, right? And we all know they got to listen. But nobody likes to be forced. But if you create an environment where it's like, hey, mommy said this, this, and this, and you listen, and then there's no problem. There's no problem. Instead of forcing something and everybody's acting out. Because that's what they did to me. They threw a tantrum and they started acting out. Let's see, that's the difference between earning loyalty. When you do it that way, when you cultivate it, you can earn that loyalty instead of demanding submission, which I have an issue with that word anyway. Okay, so the king, he he chose legislation over introspection because in that moment he should have taken a step back and really thought about, okay, why would she say no? But we know he had been drinking for 7 days. Everybody been drinking. He would have thought about, you know what? She is hosting her own party. That would be rude for her to come over here and leave her own event. And maybe this ain't the safest place for her to be right now. Everybody riled up, doing a lot. Or whatever her reasoning was, right? He should have just respected the fact that my queen said no. And I'm sure she had a very good reason because she's the queen for a reason. And then that choice sets up the entire need for Esther later, which we know when we find out, right? The nervous system theme running under this chapter is actually a story about unregulated environments and how they create bad decisions. Look at the sequence, okay? He putting stuff on display, he's showing off. Then that leads into intoxication. That leads into ego injury because now his ego is bruised. And then that leads to peer pressure. Can I get it out? Peer pressure. And then now that's going to lead to a reactionary law that didn't even have to happen. There was no pause. There was no reflection. There was no grounding. Just stimulus, reaction, empire wide consequences. Does that sound familiar? And to me, that's how a lot of people run their personal lives as well. Like, this matters for us now today because before Esther can rise, the system first shows you what happens when identity is built on appearance alone. That's the state that the king was in, right? Showing off. It shows us when boundaries are punished. Vashti is our example for that. When environments lack regulation, the banquet, drinking for 7 days with no restriction. I still want to, I wish I could find or knew a historian that could really explain to me what that meant. Matter of fact, I'm going to write that down. That's going to be all of our homework. I know y'all like, girl, we did not come here for no damn homework. We're going to look up what it really means for that time period, the drinking without restrictions. And then we're gonna all report our findings, especially if you're in the modern day spiritualist group. We're gonna put it in there. Drinking without restrictions, because I'm wondering, like, did they have certain restrictions on drinking during that time? If you know, and I mean know for real, don't just be giving me what you think. Let me know. Comment and let me know. What was I talking about? What was I talking about, y'all? I forgot. See, this is why I can't get off track. This is why I need notes too, because I'll get off track, all the way off track. Oh, we was talking about the system. What happens when the system is not regulated, and how all of this had to be set up a certain way before Esther could enter the picture. All right. Okay, so we talked about there was no regulation because everybody drinking. And then the voices of fear that get amplified, those are the advisors, okay? So Esther, she don't enter into a healthy system because we know that later she becomes queen, right? But she entered into a destabilized one. And what I have found, what I've learned, and what I've seen and experienced is that transformation always begins in destabilization. Think about all the times when you went through some sort of transformation. It was because or during a period when you were not stabilized. Okay. So Esther chapter 1 isn't about Vashti being removed. It's really about exposing a power structure that was already cracked up and messed up. So you can't bring Esther into the story until that illusion of control collapses first. Okay, so that rounds up chapter 2 for us. and we are going to move into our next segment, between the sheets and in the margins. So we're in my book, Beauty is the First Spell. And if you want to read along as I write, you can do that in the description. You'll get the link to be able to do that in the description. And so what I want to get into today concerning that chapter is what it's actually saying to us. Because when we read books, everybody can take away something different because we're all in a different path. We all have different experiences that will lead us to different conclusions, right? And so for me, as I was writing this is the chapter that's going to introduce the idea that tending to appearance can be sacred. And I set the stage for us to get into some contradicting beliefs about beauty. All right. Because a lot of times we get that hearing about how you look is shallow, but neglecting yourself is virtuous. That's what they teach us, right? That's what they have us believe. We were taught that survival first, service second, self last. That doesn't make any sense, right? How does that really work? I say this example all the time. When you get on the plane, what do they say? Put on your oxygen mask first before assisting children and the elderly. Why? Because if you can't breathe, you can't help anybody else. So this system that they have taught us is basically setting us up to be out of breath. Basically, survive first, serve everybody else secondly, and worry about yourself last. That's not sustainable and it doesn't make sense. So then when you begin a transformation journey, you want to start with the mindset of healing or purpose, but the body hasn't been invited into this process yet. So what I've done with creating the outside in method is I flip the order. You need an outside in disruption and not just vanity, but regulation. That's what's going to make the change last. When a woman oils her skin, when you choose color intentionally, when you adorn yourself with your jewelry, with your accessories, when you slow down at the mirror, you're sending a signal to your nervous system that I'm worth the time. And that signal is going to be more believable than any affirmations. Okay? And so the spell, why do I call it a spell? I use the word spell deliberately, not metaphorically, because repetition plus intention plus sensory engagement, that equals a neurological imprint. And beauty rituals function like anchoring practices. They function like identity rehearsal. They function like somatic evidence of change. This is why transformation that starts only with journaling often collapse or it don't last, it don't stick because your body was never convinced. And so chapter 1 says, before you can believe that you are becoming her, you must physically practice being her. This chapter is really rebelling against a few things quietly. We challenge a couple things here. Three main cultural scripts that I'll call out now is that beauty is frivolous, beauty is formative, and then that confidence comes later. Confidence is practiced physically. Fix yourself internally first. Lead with embodiment. I'm not dismissing healing at all. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that embodiment accelerates that. Now, what you should notice while you're reading this is the part that I call in the margins that you're not going to see. You're only going to get this when we have this conversation, right? These are the questions hiding in between in the white space inside of chapter 1. Where did I learn that neglect equals humility? Who taught us that? Where did we learn that? When did getting ready become something I could only do for other people? This used to really annoy me and get on my nerves so bad. Whenever I would get dressed and look really nice, and somebody would say to me, "Oh, what you get all dressed up for?" Or "What are you getting dressed up for?" If it was a partner. And it's like, I can't get ready just for myself. I can't wear something because I like it. I like the way it makes me look. I like the way it makes me feel. Why does what I'm doing, what I'm wearing have to be for somebody else? That's always been weird to me. Another question: what version of me is waiting on the other side of consistent adornment? Do I treat my appearance like an obligation or a relationship? So, this is where you're going to start to realize, like, oh, I don't need a new personality. I just need some new rituals. So, there's also grief in chapter 1 because many of you recognize how long you've postponed yourselves. You're just suspended in time. So this chapter is both an initiation and a return. And it says that you're not becoming somebody else, but you are resuming authorship. Okay. So what I want to do right now is just take a quick break. I need to get me some water and fix something else that I see is becoming a problem. And I'll be right back. I'm going to play some cute music while um while I do this, okay? I'll be right back. Here I come. I'm just trying to fix something really quick. I'll be right there. Give me just a minute. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. I hope that you guys have liked and subscribed if you are not subscribed, and share this with a friend. Like, girl, do all the things, okay? All right, so let's move right along. We're going to talk about our next segment, which is the vibe shifters segment. And I want to talk about how this month's practice raises your vibration and why that matters for the collective, because it's great for us to, raise our own vibrations. We need that, right? Everything should start with us first, but then it should also positively affect the collective, because everything we do is going to have an effect collectively, right? And so we want to make sure that what we are contributing is something useful and helpful in a good way. So let's kind of demystify the word vibration for a second, because excuse me, a lot of times it's used in those spiritual spaces like without really being grounded in what's actually happening. So this month's challenge is not about feeling like that high vibe. That's not really what it's about. It's about training your baseline state. And this is important because what we're really doing is resetting our internal frequency. So your vibration is not just some abstract aura floating around you, right? It's a combination of your nervous system state, your repeated thoughts, your physical environment, your behaviors on autopilot. So, in other words, it's like the pattern that you live by every day. And most people, try to change their lives, but they do it while their baseline is still rushed, okay? Self neglectful, reactive, disconnected from their bodies, and then that creates friction. So you want expansion, but you're operating from contraction. Now make that make sense. So this challenge was designed to interrupt that loop that some of us are in. And then the small actions, they're going to matter more than the big ones. So when you do things like take your time getting ready, even if you're not going anywhere, my grandma is the queen of this. This lady will get fully dressed, full makeup, wig for the day, everything, because the wig has to match the makeup and the outfit. Okay, that's a tip for you. Um, and it'll be like, "Oh, grandma, where you going?" And she'll be like, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm getting ready for the day." Like, don't you get ready for your day? And then you feel crazy because you ain't did fully prepared yourself for your day like she prepared herself for her day, right? So that's what that looks like. Clear a surface in your home. If you sit with a candle for like 5 minutes, just the small things, what we consider the small things. Just choose an intention instead of like whatever your default is. Now, the collective piece, because this isn't just personal, again, every regulated person affects their environment. And so consistency is the real frequency shift, because one good day doesn't change your vibration, but repetition does. So this challenge is designed to create predictability for your nervous system. That's important. Evidence of self trust, a lived identity instead of an aspirational one. So you're not trying to be better, but you're becoming more coherent. And your actions are going to actually start matching what you say you want. And then that coherence, that's what people feel when they say somebody has a strong presence. Have you heard that before? That's what that means. That's what that looks like. Um, let's get into self-love as preparation, because that's what the challenge was about for us inside of the Modern Day Spiritualist, which is my private group on the school platform. Okay. So we want to talk about and look at self-love as preparation, not just a feeling. It's centered on self-love, but not like the hashtag version. Okay. So we're talking about self-love as a practice of returning to yourself on purpose. So self love is not waiting until life calms down, rewarding yourself after burnout, saying affirmations you don't even believe. Self love is learning how to create that inner steadiness before life demands it. And that's why this challenge is directly connected to the preparation room, which started today. Most people think preparation means getting strategies, plans, or information. But real preparation is going to start with regulating those emotions, rebuilding trust with yourself, slowing down enough to hear your own direction, treating yourself like somebody worth caring for now, not later. You can't build a new chapter while you consistently abandon yourself in the process. That's not going to work. You're not going to see the results that you want, right? So this challenges how we practice showing up for ourselves before we call to show up for anything else. It's it's those day-to-day things that really sends the message to ourselves that we're worth it. We're worth showing up for. Even if, not if, but when crisis is happening. Because crisis is gonna happen, life gonna life, right? I'm always saying that. Life is life, and it's gonna do that because that's what it's supposed to do. So the preparation room supports this work because it's a rhythm. It's not just, oh, a cute 7-day idea. So inside of the preparation room that I'm inviting you all to, the link is in the description for that. But it's about stabilizing that nervous system, simple grounding rituals that can anchor your day, learning how to move from reaction to intention, creating a space so that your next decisions come from clarity and not pressure. That happens to a lot of us, right? And it's not about doing more, but it's about becoming intentionally ready. You want to be ready intentionally on purpose. Now, some of the days I'm going to post here on YouTube, but if you only stay on YouTube, you're going to miss some stuff. Some parts I'm not putting on YouTube so you can experience the whole work and begin the shift inside of the preparation room. The deeper guidance, the structure, the pacing, all of that, the pieces that is going to really help this stick is going to happen inside of the preparation room, which is another space that I created on the school platform for us to do that and just focus purely on that work. So YouTube going to give you moments, but the room is going to give you the container, because we know transformation that needs a container. Okay. Now, if this month is about choosing yourself in a real way, not occasionally, but consistently, then come into that space that's designed for that. All right. Okay, let's move into one of my favorite segments, and that is Beauty and Brujería. All right. Okay, so for this, you may want to make sure that you have your notes so you can write down what to do. This is going to be a beginner friendly glamour and grounding spell. Okay. So, this is where beauty meets intention. It's not going to be complicated or intimidating or any of that. Definitely not going to require a whole slew of tools. Okay. This is like a getting ready as a ritual spell, I guess you can say. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it. So it's perfect for beginners because you're going to use what you already have, whatever you already own. You have to go and buy anything. You should already have this stuff. So this spell is for reconnecting with yourself, calling your energy back from stress, people, distractions. This is for setting the tone for how you want to move through the day. This is for learning that your body can be a part of your spiritual practice. And that is my ultimate goal for us here on YouTube, my YouTube family, and my family in MDS. Your spiritual practice should be life. It shouldn't be this thing that's separated from your life, right? It should be a part of your life. It should be a practice that you do every day. So we can think of this as an energetic alignment, but like, with lip gloss. Okay. So this is what you need, and keep it simple. Don't make this complicated for yourself. All right. You're going to want to get a candle, white, or whatever you have. Do not stress. Okay. A mirror, one beauty item. So it can be like an oil, a lotion, a perfume, or a lip product. One of those. You need about 5 minutes where it's going to be quiet for you, uninterrupted, and then that's it. Nothing else is required. All right, here are the steps. I'm going to try to say this slowly. I know I speak very fast, so if you got to go back and rewind, then my apologies. Okay, step one. You want to light the candle because this is going to mark the shift. You're going to light your candle and then you're going to pause. Okay? This is the moment that you step out of autopilot and into intention. You're going to take one slow breath and then you're going to think, I am here with myself now. You don't have to chant anything. You're just going to say that. Step two, you want to look into the mirror. Yes, really look into the mirror. Not to critique, not to fix anything. I know that's so hard for us, but we're going to just acknowledge yourself. And most people avoid this moment. And that avoidance is exactly why this is powerful. So you want to hold your gaze and you want to say out loud if you can. I choose to show up for myself today. I choose to show up for myself today. Step three, after you make the statement, you're going to apply whichever product you chose, and you're going to do so with intention. So as you apply your oil or your lotion or your gloss, you're going to slow down. And instead of rushing through that moment, I want you to mentally assign meaning to the action. So as you're smoothing it in, your intention and your action is and your thought process is, I soften my day. We're giving it meaning. As you anoint your pulse points, the meaning is, I carry myself with presence. And then as you finish, I am prepared to be seen. And this is where beauty becomes the spell work with repetition plus intention plus sensation is going to equal an energetic imprint. And then step four, you want to seal it. So you want to put out your candle. Do not blow it out, but you're going to put it out safely, whether you snuff it or you know how to put it out with your fingers. And then you're going to imagine the shift locking in. You're not asking for anything. Okay, you're just deciding how you're going to enter the world. And that's the distinction that's going to make all the difference. That matters. So, why this works, even if you're new to all of this works because this practice signals safety to your nervous system. It's going to anchor you in your body before the day starts to pull at you. If you're anything like me with teenagers, they pull on you. Kids of all ages, they pull on you. This is going to rewrite the habit of neglect into a habit of regard. That's why this is going to work. This also works because it builds spiritual consistency without all that overwhelm. So you're not trying to feel mystical with this, okay? But you're going to train your presence. So I want you to try it throughout the week. I want you to do this. Do it before work or before an important conversation. In those moments when you feel scattered, a little off, or when you just want to reset your energy. This is a simple, small ritual that you can do. Because remember, those small rituals that's done consistently, they're stronger than the dramatic ones that you do one time. I promise you they are. Okay. And remember, beauty and brujeria isn't about becoming somebody else. That's not what we're doing here. But it's about making your everyday actions intentional enough to support who you are already becoming. This is the year of the becoming, right? Um, I also want to say, as we wrap up, because we're going to wrap up, I have another appointment inside of my group that I'm also going to invite you to. But Thank you for spending this time with me and not just listening, but really leaning into yourself a little differently. Okay. So I want this week to not be about adding more to your plate, but just about remembering that transformation doesn't start with pressure, but it starts with preparation. All things start with preparation. With self-love, that's practice, is not postponed. With small intentional choices that's going to steady you and align you and bring you back into your own presence, whether you connected through the conversation or the challenge or with beauty and brujeria practice. Let this be something that you can carry into your day, not as another task. I don't want to add to our thousands of tasks that we already have, but just as a new way of showing up for yourself. Because some of this journey you're going to see shared publicly, but that deeper work, that's the space to actually integrate and move at your own pace. That work is done inside of you. And if you need a place inside of the preparation room, I'm going to keep telling y'all that. So, all right. So if you're feeling called to continue, you can continue. You're welcome to do it there. Oh, I do want to invite you to Messages and Mimosa inside of my group. We're about to get started in about 10 minutes. Okay. This is going to be a really cute edition. It's the this or that edition coming off of Lovers and Lust Day. And it's going to start right after this live. Okay. So you can find the link also for that inside of my description box, or you can go to houseofzokai.com. All right. We're not into this conversation. We just taking it over there. All right. Okay. So hopefully I see you guys there. And I'll see y'all next week so we can keep on talking about Esther and the craziness that I see in these spiritual. I can't even get it out. Spiritual streets. I promise y'all, I haven't even started drinking yet. Okay. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.